Talk of the Town is up and running in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, USA. I'm Scott Montesano, and this is where the Chippewa Valley comes to talk. A hello to everybody out there. Live edition on YouTube. And if you are listening to the podcast and you want to see Scott Montesano, go to our YouTube page and you can check it out. Big interview dropped earlier this week. If you have not checked it out yet, go and do so. Interview with Dr. Brad Sarin, the incoming superintendent with the Chippewa Falls Area Unified School District. You'll get that with the Beyond the Bell podcast series presented by the Chippewa Falls Area Unified School District. Brad, by the way, does open up about the controversies down in Sun Prairie where he is coming. Those controversies have given some parents in Chippewa Falls and members of the Chippewa Falls community some pause as to him being hired, coming back to the district where he was an administrator about a decade ago. He opens up about it. Here's the thing about the investigation, the Sun Prairie and Brad Sarin's involvement or lack thereof. He's been cleared by the Chippewa Falls Area Unified School District's lawyers. He's been cleared by independent investigators down there as to having no involvement whatsoever. But here's the thing. You got to go and actually read the stories to find out. Otherwise, if it just goes out on social media, you sit there and you go, well, he was the superintendent and these things are happening in the school district, so he's got to be at fault. Go and listen. Two things I would recommend to people is because a lot of the hubbub about his selection by the school board is based on, I don't want to say misinformation, it's based on lazy information. It's based on lazy information in that people sit there and they say, well, he's had these controversies, so he must not be qualified. Well, he hasn't had any controversies down in Sun Prairie. Well, they had a vote of no confidence. Again, he had no connection at all to what was going on in Sun Prairie. Some will argue, and I do think that there is validation to this. Yes, he might not have had any connection, but he's still at the top. Okay, think of all the people that are complaining about the Green Bay Packers these last couple of days, and it's LaFleur's fault and the coaching staff's fault. Well, if the players executed some of the plays that they called, they hold on to that lead, don't they? But the person at the top, as the wise prophets of the 90s said, more money, more problems. More responsibility, more problems. And there is validation to that. But again, I say go and listen to that interview with Dr. Brad Sarin. He opens up about the controversies, and then also you get to learn who he is. You get to learn a little bit more about who he is in this interview, and more importantly, what his goals are for the district. And I think you'll come out of that conversation, out of that interview, feeling pretty good about it. Feeling pretty good about his selection as to why the school board said this is going to be the guy that we want replacing Jeffrey Holmes. So the Dr. Brad Sarin interview. We said it last week on this program, by the way. The easy choice for the school board would have been not to pick him, because no matter what, no matter how much he's been cleared, it's still messy, as we're seeing play out. But they clearly felt the conviction that, yes, this is worth it. This is worth the initial blowback there is going to be, because there isn't any actual investigation into him. All right? And once people maybe see that, it'll quickly blow over. There's nothing that's actually there. Think of it like a temporary tattoo. There's a temporary tattoo on him. There wasn't any actual ink that went underneath the skin. So we've got that. We also have some girls basketball tonight here at ECHometownRadio.com and our friends on 93.5 FM. The Crosstown Showdown in girls basketball. Memorial at North tonight in girls basketball. Should be a humdinger of a game. Memorial and North in girls basketball tonight on ECHometownRadio.com. Both those teams featuring a lot of underclassmen. A lot of standout freshmen and super sophomores on both of those teams. Should make for a fun one. I've seen a lot of social media posts about this, and boy, do I feel bad that I wasn't able to go. Hairball was at the Pablo Center on Friday night. Hairball is a long-time touring 80s cover act in which they play a lot of 80s arena rock, and it's a high-energy show, and they have been extremely popular in this area, hitting up a variety of venues. They were at the Pablo this year. They've been at the Pablo before. They've been at the Northern Wisconsin State Fair. It's a grand old time, and Hairball's been going around for at least 20 years with no signs of slowing down, and boy, oh boy, was that a show I would have liked to have gone seen. I would have loved to have gone seen it, but my weekends are gummed up. But clearly it was not an impact for a number of people. Jam-packed house at the Pablo Center on Friday night. Jam-packed. People were sitting on each other's shoulders, judging by some of the social media photos I was seeing from friends that were out there. One person even posted their kid got to go up on stage. God, I would have liked to have gone to that show. God, I would have liked to have gone to it. Now, where was I instead? I was at a Chippewa Steel game announcing that and had a good time announcing it, and I get paid to announce those games. I've talked to Kathy Wright about this at the Pablo. It sucks for me, but it's good for many of you. This year's schedule has been leaned significantly more towards Fridays and Saturdays. Well, I can't go to shows on Fridays and Saturdays because of what I do in sports, and then also my kids are involved in various activities that we have to travel away for because Lord knows you can't play hockey games locally in youth hockey. You got to travel 2 hours for a game that you could very well have just played locally with local kids, but I digress on that. But weekends work out better for the vast majority of you out there. They work better for you out there. Hairball. God, I would have liked to have gone to that. Something else I wanted to touch on here on Talk of the Town. Little bit of frustration for me, and I know for a few of my clients as well. Many of the shows you listen to, there's been a growing frustration in the last couple of years for a number of them that you don't end up seeing. It's the old adage of the duck looks calm above the water, but underneath things are flailing about. The dining room of the kitchen looks calm and collected. In the back, pots and pans are flying. Frustration a bit over certain organizations in town, and I wouldn't even say certain. I'd say many organizations in town, namely a lot of nonprofits, not jumping at free publicity. And it's not just our platform, it's other platforms as well. Recently, and this is why it skimmed to the surface, because this happens over the course of a while. You have whether it's particular shows I'm doing directly or our partners, they offer up opportunities to XYZ organization to come on and talk about their thing, talk about what they've got. And you sometimes get turned down. They say no. And in the last week or so, I've had a lot of the no's pop up. And it's not out of a deep-seated dislike for Eau Claire hometown media. It's nothing that we've done. And they say, well, we're never going on Eau Claire hometown media, or we're not going on this podcast. Is that they simply don't want to make it work. They've got, you say, hey, we can record at this time. And they say, nope, none of our people are available. It's not new. This has happened for a while. And I say this, a word of advice to nonprofits. And the same goes for small businesses, because it's not just nonprofits, it's also some small businesses. Scheduling is not necessarily convenient, but hardly ever say no to opportunities for free marketing. Unless it's something you fundamentally don't want to be a part of. For example, Mothers Against Drunk Driving probably shouldn't be on the Moon Ridge's beer talking podcast. But otherwise, whether it's our platform, whether it's anybody else, don't say no to free opportunities to get your name out there at all. This is what you strive for. Well, we don't have any staff available. Make staff available. We have a board of directors meeting. Rearrange the board of directors meeting. Send somebody else to, whether it's our show, whether it's somebody else's. If somebody offers you a free table someplace, try to take advantage of free marketing opportunities. It's in many ways, it is in many ways an opportunity for one business or one podcast or one content creator to offer something to you. Hey, I'm offering you this space to come on. This isn't 60 Minutes. I'm not John Chancellor of NBC News in the early 1980s, and I'm going to grill Ford and Reagan ahead of a debate or any of my other people. So I'm just giving you that advice. Because these same groups, when you're talking about the nonprofits, they'll send reams of press releases, reams of things that they want you to talk about. Hey, can you talk about this on your show? Can you do this? They beg and they plead for attention, and rightfully so. But unless they're actively selling the latest banquet or fundraiser, they sometimes disappear. They don't want to. So this is not calling anybody on in particular. And I'm sure somebody's going to listen to this and go, oh, well, I know that I turned them down 2 days ago. They're talking about me. No, this has just been boiling up. And in the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've had a lot of no's. A lot of, we can't make this work. This time, yeah. So I'm just saying, if you are a nonprofit or you're a small business out there, whether it's me, whether it's another one of our podcasters, whether it's somebody else in the media that says, hey, here's a chance for you to come on and talk about what it is you do, make it work. Unless you absolutely cannot. If you're on vacation, you're out of town, and you're a small business owner, that makes sense. If you're a nonprofit and hey, we'd love to, but we've got a retreat that day, that makes sense. Or if you know you're going to be shorthanded that day, hey, a bunch of people are going to be out that day and we've got only 2 people back, that makes sense. But for the most part, it's that people don't want to work it into their schedule. I'm just telling you. If you're a nonprofit, eventually you're going to get the word out. It just boggles my mind. If somebody says, I want you to come on and talk about this, you should be jumping at it. I did have one person kind of hint to me that, well, they don't like to talk publicly. Then how the hell are you the head of one of the nonprofits in the area if you don't like to talk publicly? Who's doing you a favor giving you a job at that point? So now there are some, I know, if I ever need a nonprofit, if I ever need a go-to guest, there's about 6 or 7 nonprofits that if I say I need them on Thursday, they'll send me somebody today. I'll say, no, I need them tomorrow. Too soon. They'll be like, hey, we'll sit and wait. Just wanted to get that off my chest. Another thing, too. I know a number of you have seen the video clip. I wish more of you would actually listen to the episode because I threw the cheese out there and I baited a lot of you Mises. I baited you Mises. And I'm talking about the Dan Marcon podcast. That was brilliant. Hope you guys all realize the algorithm's working out great, all that. Now, I've had to go through and constantly on that post, and if you haven't seen the post, go check it out. I've had to go through and constantly delete and hide comments because people are making some rather inflammatory statements, a lot of profanity. Look at what's I'm still allowing, and just imagine how bad the stuff is for me to have to delete it, the ones that I'm deleting. But I do the cheese out there. It's a clip of Dan talking about ICE enforcement and protesters, and Dan's opinion on protesters, which is kind of like mine, and I think a lot of people's. Hey, they have the right to protest. We got to watch the dust-ups, though. And I can tell a lot of people haven't actually listened. But first off, if you're tuning into this podcast, you're smart. All right? I know you're smart. I know you're smart because you follow the program. You're a smart individual. So you got to actually listen to the shows. You got to read the articles. You got to. The old judge the book by its cover. You're not going to get any idea there. But go back and listen to Dan's statements from last week, too, and all of that. But we've got ICE in the areas we've talked about. Something interesting from a couple of days ago from EAU, and it kind of validates what I think a lot of us were thinking. ICE is active in our area. But like the vast majority of ICE enforcement for decades, let alone in the last several months, it happens quickly, quietly, without any quote-unquote show. And EAU has pointed out that nobody has been able to, there hasn't been any big surge in one particular area. We do know from leaders in the area that ICE is here. There has been enforcement, but there's not been this big raid on a place. That also then does not allow there to be protesters to swarm on in. EAU pointed out, and I think correctly so, something smart, that there's been a lot of internet rumors of, they're here, they're there. I mean, just last week I got a couple people emailed me and said every Mexican restaurant in Menominee was closed because of the raids. And I went ahead and I called a Mexican restaurant to see if there was a table for the evening. And somebody answered, said, yeah, we're open. So rumors, again, the old spreading like wildfire. All right. But ICE is active in the area. I think this is something to point out when it comes to ICE activities, because they're occurring in the area, and you and I have no idea that it's really going on unless you see it or you're connected to it. Sadly, lots of what is happening in places like Minneapolis is performative on both sides. ICE wants the display of force. They want the display of force, which leads to the protests, which leads to unfortunate incidents because it's all emotion-based. I pray, and I do legitimately pray, that we don't have any of that in our area. That the ICE enforcement goes on smoothly, efficiently, get the bad hombres, as they say, and away they go. I will point one thing out. And again, I tend to side with ICE on a lot of things. I don't understand why they do have to be masked. That I don't get. That I don't get. And I've had it explained a little bit to me. The most plausible reason, somebody said, well, you're dealing with people sometimes that are highly connected in drug trafficking, and if this person's face is seen, then they're a marked man. Well, what about officers? Officers don't wear masks covered. If it's really cold outside, they'll wear masks, but these ICE agents aren't wearing masks because it's cold outside. That's one thing I will say. I'll give protesters that. Why are you masked? Why are you masked? But as I said, a lot of this is performative on all sides. The Eau Claire City Council is getting together this week. They are considering a new polling location downtown at the United Methodist Church. Churches always make for great polling locations, big spaces, and what have you. They're also voting on eliminating left turns in a number of streets in the area. Nothing that seems overly controversial, and when you do have that type of traffic pattern change, it's typically because there's been a lot of studies done, and sometimes just anecdotally, you're going to make the change. So they're looking at doing that. Another thing is Emily Berge posted this on her Facebook page. We talk about ICE enforcement. there was a group of young adults who came and spoke about ICE activity at the city council meeting on Monday night. And I'm perfectly fine with that. What I am happy with right now and what I do not want to have out of the city council is them to do anything when it comes to ICE. When it comes to the only thing they have to say when it comes to this is we will respect the right of protesters and we will respect the federal law. That's all. If they want to make a statement, is all they have to do. Otherwise, not your fight. It's not your fight. It's not your fight. All you're doing is, I talked about giving some cheese to the Mises online, helping my business out. People have taken the bait. It's beautiful for our Facebook page. I love it. Otherwise, you're just egging people on. So the city council, stay out of it. Your debates are polling locations and left-hand turns in the city. That's it. That is it. And I will say this as well, and I've shut some people up when I say this. The person you are trying to win as a voter for the big national level stuff is Scott Montesano. Not just because I'm Scott Montesano, but because I am somebody that is not attached to either political party. I'm like a windsock, blow in all directions. Now, I've already said I'm more than likely going to sit out this congressional race. Sat it out the last time. But my vote is still there. I don't want to sit it out. I'm probably not going to vote for Derek Van Orden, but one of the Democrat challengers could earn my vote. And the best way to earn the vote with Scott Montesano is to not be a blowhard, is to not take an extremist view. Either way. It is not to, fight. I don't like the idea of the fight. You're not fighting. All right? Nothing gets accomplished with the quote-unquote fight. All you do is you rub the scab of the other extreme side. That's all you're doing. You're doing nothing to win the middle ground towards you. It is in many ways like young children watching their parents who are in the midst of getting a divorce have a fight. I like both of yous. Continuing on. Article in the latest volume 1, and if you drive down it, you've noticed it, no doubt, in the last little bit, and that is Chippewa Falls downtown struggling. We talk so much about how downtown Eau Claire has had this growth, this renaissance, both with what your eyeballs can see and the feeling. Downtown Eau Claire has truly become kind of a nice congregation spot in the area. I would say downtown Eau Claire and River Prairie are two spots where people can just go and walk. Maybe run into people. There's things to do, or you could just kill an hour meandering around. But Chippewa Falls downtown is struggling. Volume 1 laid out the number of businesses that have shut down over the last couple of months. A couple more planning on shutting down, and it doesn't feel like there is much momentum happening in downtown Chippewa Falls. You had the Market on River open up. That has not seemed to spur a lot of growth downtown, at least as of yet. To say Market on River has been a failure is way too soon to say anything like that. I hear there's been some entrepreneurs in there who have been very happy inside of Market on River. So this is nothing about Market on River, but the downtown itself is struggling at the moment. Now, does this mean oh, in a year from now it's going to be a ghost town, boarded up buildings and what have you. No, but I do think something's going to have to happen to try to reverse the course for downtown Chippewa Falls. There's not a lot of, I'd say, momentum. And in many ways, it is a chicken and an egg concept. You need to have the faith and the belief, and then it ends up occurring. We'll have to wait and see what goes on with downtown Chippewa Falls. Downtown Chippewa Falls, there is a very real advantage that downtown Eau Claire has over downtown Chippewa Falls, and that is there's no hill. There's no hill. Saw this on WQOW, and I think some of you have seen it as well. Heidi Box, formerly of Josh Box and the Box Sanitation family and what have you, they cashed out a couple of years ago. Well, they are offering a $10,000 reward for the return of their dog that they believe was taken over the holidays, where their dog was believed to have been taken. There were tire tracks and footprints. So they're offering a $10,000 reward. It shows you how much people cherish their dogs, and the Box family has got a lot of money to offer a $10,000 reward, and they're saying, hey, if you bring the dog, no questions asked, you get the money. I'm not going to sit here and question people's financial decisions or anything like that. I have long since accepted the fact that there are people that view a dog as important as their own child, if not more important than their own child. So a $10,000 reward, there's some of you out there saying I'd be willing to offer more even if all I make is $30,000 a year. If all I make is $30,000 a year, I'd offer $30,000 for the return of my dog if my dog got taken. That's not the point. What is why do people take dogs? Why? Unless they think the dog is lost, even then, wouldn't you reach out to the authorities? Hey, this dog looked like it was on the side of the road. We grabbed it, put it in. Wouldn't you then take it to some type of an authority, the Humane Association, something like that? I can understand if you have what you think to be a stray, but even then, we found this dog on the side of the road, we're going to take it home. We wouldn't mind having it as a pet, but even then, wouldn't you feel the urge to call somebody to make sure, hey, has anybody turned in a dog? And I get it. There is a nefarious nature to it, where there's probably people that if they see a dog, they're going to grab the dog, and they know they can sell the dog on a proverbial black market, which exists. But is that really an issue? I got to talk to Heather Mashevsky about that. Does that really exist out there? There's a dirty market for everything that is out there, but I just can't wrap my brain around the fact, why would somebody go to the effort of taking a dog? Why would they go to the effort of taking a dog? I think that's something that I've always. There was a time, I give you a quick example here from the Montisanos before we go. It was with a cat. We had a cat that came to our house in the summertime. And you can kind of tell the cat was kind of lost and whatnot. The cat was sort of lost and what have you, and we brought the cat in the home briefly there, and then quickly we saw somebody was walking up and down the road going, hey, did anybody see my cat? I'm like, oh, well, this is their cat for that. If those people hadn't walked up and down the street looking for their cat, we probably were going to then call somebody, maybe even take the cat to the Humane Association. Our first thought wasn't, well, we've got a new cat. All right, we're back with you on Thursday, another edition of Talk of the Town coming up on Thursday. On behalf of everyone who made this podcast possible, I'm Scott Montesano saying there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. Make sure to take advantage of it. And until next time, so long, everybody.